on this couch and seats. Let's introduce them. So first up we have Hagelmüller. He leads Ashoka's education system, which is Bildünger, and he was also the organizer of yesterday's Zukunftsforum Bildung, which was a conference bringing together all the different stakeholders in the education system. Today he will bring us the results of yesterday and all the findings that came out through the talks and the workshops. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks very much.
Then we also have Teresa Torzicky. She, after participating in the Teach For Austria program and actually teaching at an NMS, which is a Neue Mittelschule, in Austria herself, she now runs a SEED, which is an incubator for innovative ideas for fostering equal chances in education. And today she will share some of her hands-on teaching experiences and provide insights directly from inside the classroom. And then we have Ruckensteiner. He is the co-founder of Schule im Aufbruch, which is a grassroots movement of innovative schools in Austria and also a platform where different models of education can be shared. Through his work with Schule im Aufbruch and his background in impact strategy development, Martin will give us an overview of the overlap between the education system and the business world and where there are opportunities for collaboration. Awesome, yeah. And finally, we have Goran Maric. He is the CEO and founder of 3 Coins, a social enterprise specializing in financial literacy. Financial literacy means the development and implementation of impactful education formats that increase financial well-being and basically how we spend money. As a startup operating in the education space, he will share some of the challenges as well as opportunities for other startups looking to enter the market. Welcome, Goran. You guys okay with, can you see us or should we get up?
Yes, you should stand up.
Okay, let's stand up. That also means to our panel we have to speak extra loudly because our setup was designed for the couch. But we're masters of improvisation here, so just tell us. You can't hear us, you can't see us, we'll act. Hopefully. So cool. I'd love to start with a lightning round first. So you all know that the topic of tonight is blind spots in education. So I would love to ask all our panelists to answer the questions: what is the biggest blind spot you see in the education system today in 3 words or less? But before we get started, if you lift up your butts, you actually will see that each of you has a post-it on your seat as well. Exactly. I just heard in the first row, this is Impact Hub Vienna, problem solution. So, thank you for that. Okay, cool. Let's get back to the post-its you now all have in your hands. Basically, now that I asked panelists what the biggest blind spot they see is, if you have something that you think we're just not seeing, please write it down. And when you leave the room, we have a flip chart right on your left-hand side. And you can just put it there, and we can hear all your voices as well. But cool, let's turn it to our experts. Let's go this way. Goran, what is the biggest blind spot you see in the education system today?
3 blind spots. First one is life skills, second one equality, and third one is potentials.
Cool. Martin.
I think if we think about school education,
Yeah, sure.
then I think we have a big blind spot and some flowers which are coming out of this blind spot.
Flowers, lovely. Teresa.
Well, I would stick to the school system as well, since this is where I have my expertise, and I would say the blind spots from my point of view are the equal opportunities, depending on where you're coming from, like your parents, etc. And I think the second thing is we miss opportunities, or we miss processes for quick change. The system itself changes, but over a very, very long time. And we would need something quicker to adapt to our quickly changing world.
Some insights from the conference yesterday definitely is the lack of change-making skills on all levels, not only with students but also with other people in the system.
Great, Michael, you just mentioned the conference yesterday, and as I already said when introducing you, this event actually is held in collaboration with the Zukunftsforum Bildung, which was organized by Bildünger and happened yesterday. Whoop, losing my voice. And I would love for you to share some of the critical findings that came out of yesterday, so we have something to start with.
So one of the most the things that we saw yesterday and that people actually also told us, there haven't been any teachers. And I would really like quickly ask, how many teachers are in the room?
Whoa, nice.
Welcome.
Actually, could we ask how many of you are from Teach For Austria?
Do we have like pure teachers? Like
Teachers?
teachers? If you compare it to the conference yesterday, the picture was very much alike. So there was a lack of teachers, but we know a lot of teachers who actually would like to come to conferences like this, but they cannot. And I think this is one of the main takeaways, that we need to involve teachers and a broad base of teachers. Teach For Austria is doing a great job at paving the way for innovators, but it's also to take account of the others that want to change the system, and they are there. The other thing we saw yesterday is that there's a huge need for financial support and resources. So we know that the education system is the most expensive, or one of the most expensive in the world, but there's no free money for initiatives like yours, for startups. And yesterday it was, again, told us that they need more money.
Great. I mean, not great, to be honest, but thank you for sharing with it. Now, we actually do have a teacher on this panel, which is Teresa. So can you share with us, what are we as external stakeholders not seeing when looking at the education system?
Actually, that's a really tough question, but I think it's lots of things, because I can speak here from my own experience. Before I entered as a teacher, I had certain assumptions about how learning works and how the perfect school could look like. And then when entering the system and after being there, I have to say I changed a lot of my points of view. One thing to which I would bring it down is missing cooperation. You know, we're always thinking like, oh, we need to change the school system, then everything will become better. But in the end, education is something which happens with the children, or basically the children are the main people here in this whole thing, and it's supported by teachers, parents, peers, etc. So it's a very complex and difficult system, and basically when you look into it from the outside, you always have the feeling like, I have a solution. But when you look from it in the inside, you figure out like, okay, maybe my solution is not really solving the problem I thought it will solve. So all in all, I would say this insight view about what we're really talking about, this going into the depth of a problem, or basically a challenge, was what I was really taking from school. And another thing which was something that I really learned, before, I was always thinking that in a country like Austria, education opportunities are distributed quite equally. Everyone is allowed to go to school. It doesn't matter who your parents are, you're allowed to go to school, you can have your education. When teaching in a school where you have a high number of children from low-income families, I figured out that this perception that the chances for education are equally distributed in Austria is just wrong. And when figuring this out, actually it was the point where I, after teaching, also said, this is a problem where I want to work on, changing that, because I think it's unfair from the point of view of the children who are suffering from that, but it's also a really bad thing for us as a society, so we should really focus on changing this.
So now that we heard before that it is sometimes difficult for an outsider to really understand the issues in the education system when coming up with a solution, I want to ask you, Goran, because you came up with a solution to something you were not seeing in the education system. So what were your experiences and your learnings when actually partnering with education system stakeholders?
Okay. I actually love how many people are in this room. And I really love that the topic of education is becoming more and more important. And like, just thank you for being here. That's something I want to say. And to come back to the question, you know, we, as Three Cards, and we were founded in 2012, we had to be operative and active in 4 countries before we could start implementing solutions in financial education in Austria. Do you hear me at the back? Okay.
Okay, let's do the mic. Why not?
So we have to be in 4 countries. Okay, now it's better. Wow. Before we could enter the market in Austria. So what happened is, as we all know, the public hand is a big mill, and it really grinds very, very slowly. And what also happens in Austria is that like innovation is something really evil and something we actually don't want to touch. So what we tried over the last years is to have many proofs of concept and to show that our solutions have an impact and show best practices in them, because we couldn't enter the system directly. And it's a pretty entrepreneurial spirit, and you have to be entrepreneurial when you have a startup, right? So we try to have workarounds and find workarounds, and we found them in partnering. And I love that you all mentioned it's collaboration, and it's coordination, it's like organization. So we had to meet the right people and the right partners. Let's say the Chamber of Labor, which is already has entered the system and has contacts, has teachers who actively seek for support and services. And we try to convince them that they need to do something, because financial education, it's not about only money management. We live in a world, it's so complex and so digital, it changed over the 20 years. We have like 3,000, 5,000 marketing messages each and every day hitting us hard, and nobody knows like what are we doing right now. And the problem is, and what I also said, is the blind spot is, and that's my belief, that our kids are leaving school and they have no idea what's going on in the world, and we have to prepare them somehow during the school and education field, and like showing all these things that can change, and also having this partnership ongoing and saying yes, we have to do it and we can do it, and have this like shortcut into the system was the way we did it. And right now that we have this partnership, we also have schools and teachers who see that we have an impact and say, okay, why aren't you active in schools? And also the ministry is coming like, oh, you're doing a good job. Where have you been before? And okay, hey man, we are here since 2012. So where have you been? It's this discussion we're actually leading right now.
I think you bring up a great point that the others mentioned as well, which is exactly that, looking for partnerships as a way into the education system. But the thing is, how do these partnerships work? Do they work? Because as you said, you're there since 2012. Where have they been? So maybe Martin, can you speak to this? Where are these partnerships? Are they happening?
So as far as I'm concerned, and there were also some studies from Ashoka even, that the education sector actually is quite connected. So at least the innovative people in the education, in the school sector, they are connected, they know each other. Also yesterday we ran into some people which we know. Tonight we ran into some people whom we know. So I think there is a small round of people who are connected and to work together. But the system itself does not work together. So the question is, how can you create change? How can you create impact? How can you create this transformation? And I talk about schools, if there is not a really big culture of cooperation. That's why we try to work with those schools who want to cooperate. We try to connect those and invite them to big events. Actually, Schule was created out of the hub, and a team of other people who are lined up here in the wall, basically. They toured around in the country, and we made big events to just invite teachers to come together and to connect with each other. And there, all these partnerships on a micro level, they really work well. So now we developed cooperations with parent organizations, with so-called pädagogischen Hochschulen, so universities. This is working now. It's in a process, but every day this network gets a little bit wider. So I think we try to do it grassroots. And I think it's really fantastic. There are different strategies, kind of, how to tackle this topic. And we try to do it bottom up, because I think in the end it's the teachers who have to change it. Or you as parents, maybe you go on our website, maybe you connect with us, where we try together to drive it bottom up.
I think that's very important.
Thank you.
But now that we're looking at connecting teachers, connecting parents, it's still very much within the education system. But where are those loopholes where startups can actually jump in and do something? Maybe Michael, Teresa, do you have an input on this?
Well, actually, I think they are there. I mean, for example, Teach For Austria itself started as a startup and jumped in at the point where you had not enough qualified teachers in a certain area of schools and provided well-trained teachers there. So in the end, I think as a startup, it's the most important step to stay close to the education system, have a close look and see where are those gaps. Talk with people within the system. If you have teachers in your surrounding, just go there and ask them what the needs might be. And what I personally think what the big strength of involving startups could be in this field is that, as I said before, in our education system, what's actually missing are somehow mechanisms which allow quick change, quick adaptation. I mean, if you think about how many things changed in your surrounding in the last 10 years, think about technology, think about how globally interconnected we've become, etc. If you look into school, these things are not happening because the system is so rigid. And I think systems which allow quick change are usually found around the startup world. So I think this could be something, if you connect these two, that you find the driver for doing this work quickly. And actually, if any of you here is a startup and you're really interested into connecting to this a little bit more, I can only invite you to the SEED program that I'm currently doing with a couple of other people, because what we're doing there is mixing edupreneurs with teachers who are also innovative and try to make them connect to each other to find the best solution for the current problems.
So, building on what Teresa has said, I think you have to ask people that are working in the system what needs to be done. I want to give one example. It's called Monsterfreunde, and what they're basically doing, they're making teachers' lives easier. So they're using a strategy that you actually are. It's easier to teach like subjects like maths to young, so they're working in Volksschulen. So it's easier to teach maths or subjects that are not very popular in school, and that's a very good example of how you can actually work with the system and actually tackle a need within the system.
There is something else what you are doing actually, bringing international examples to Austria, because also Teach For Austria was an example which worked internationally and bring it to a country. I think this probability of success is much higher.
If it's proven.
If it's proven, yeah.
I think you bring up a very important point, and actually want to dive deeper on this, because with your background, especially in strategy development for impact initiatives, what is important for those startups that are coming from all around the globe or starting in Austria to take from that business world into the education system? Is there one lesson that they can keep in mind?
Yeah, I think if you think about this as a school, then I think it's pretty difficult to get into a school. But if you think about the surroundings, because it's that, yeah, the reason is because the system is pretty rigid. Yeah, so there are many barriers to enter into schools, for example. But if you think about the surroundings, for example, how to connect our wider education, not only school education, to think about how to engage with children, for example, how to engage with communities, how to engage parents. There are already apps in the market which work pretty well, where, for example, a digital communication with parents. This is something what's working pretty well. And I would look at these borders between a school or a wider education aspect, because then it's easier to generate money. And in the end, you somehow have to generate some kind of money. So if you connect with, for example, parents, if you connect with a community, with a mayor, wherever, with companies, then you have other sources of funding and this could help.
And again, bringing up some important points for startups, with the keyword also being funding. I know that's an issue all around, but especially regarding those connections. What were your experiences in that field? Go ahead.
Maybe just a bit to what was said before. You know, in Austria we're like trying to change the educational system and the curricula for like 10 years. Nothing happened on the public side so far. And what happened is that we have many great people, many great minds who have many great ideas, and they actually can show this system what is possible and how they actually can improve it. And also what you guys said is that startups, they innovate, they're digital, they're fast, and they can enter the system pretty easily. Also what you mentioned is so important because, you know, the educational field is frustrating you because it's so rigid and it's so slow. And what you have to do, because in the end it's not about the school system at all, it's about the children and the individuals inside the system. And what you have to do and have to try is keep on this passion and finding these stakeholders and finding these multipliers. As we at 3 Coins also did, we actually saw, okay, schools are pretty hard to reach, and so we went for youth workers, because youth workers, they also work daily with children, they have them daily in their parks, they do a hard job, really like worth a lot, and then that's why we reached out to them. And I think if you have a bigger picture and a great vision, and also actually can show this lack of where the lack is, let's take financial education as a little field in education. I think it's the vision that drives people and start thinking, and it's the first connection you do, and funding is a big problem. So for us as social business, we always try to like have this balance of for-profit and impact streams, and we also try to partner up with people and also partner with organizations who have this money, because we can't do it for free, and I think we shouldn't do it for free, because education is so important. We actually have this little small budget in Austria in the educational field. I think we have to, I don't know, take it 4 times, 5 times to invest in it, and like give people the resources they need. And we actually try to connect to, let's take for example what happened some months ago. There was an EU-funded project in Burgenland. It's a state in Austria. It's not too small, it's really nice. Actually, they have awesome wine. You have to go there and taste it. And what happened, they invited, and that's I think the first step, they invited startups who innovate and have good ideas, just to pitch to them and tell them what they do and what they offer. And it just happened that at this round table were like 6, 7 pretty important stakeholders, and they said, "What? I never heard of you. Where have you been before?" And it's just like this first movement you have to see, in the first contact you have to make, just to hook people to your idea, and that's when everything starts rolling.
I would like to add a perspective here. I mean, we've heard now schools are rigid and systems are rigid. But in the end, if you think about it, what is a school made out of? It's made out of people. What is a system made out of? Out of the people who are in the system. And basically, during my 2 years as teacher, I was part of that system. I was part of this really uninnovative system. And everyone here might ask now, like, okay, why so uninnovative? Why are teachers not innovative? And this is what I would like to explain a little bit to you. You know, when you're as a teacher, you are in average teaching 50 to 100 children. It means basically that 50 to 100 children come to you on a daily basis with their troubles at home, with whatever is on their mind currently, with the things that they are interested in, with a really broad variety of stuff. Especially when you're teaching in a school where you have lots and lots of children from low-income families, this even multiplies a little bit, because these children often do not have at home or in their surrounding grown-up peoples which they can use for these kind of purposes, to share their feelings, ideas, thought with, etc. And imagining now being such a teacher, and somebody from outside comes to your headmaster and says, like, I have something totally innovative. And now imagine it's not only one person, but it's 5 to 10 people, because this is how it is, you know. Industry comes with something super innovative, a startup comes with something super innovative, social workers comes with something super innovative, and the headmasters just think like, Jesus Christ, what should I be doing with all of this, and try to distribute this among all the teachers who are still thinking like, oh my God, my focus should be on the children, so stop bothering me with all this stuff around. And I think this is what you also need to keep in mind when you have this experience that you try to approach the school and maybe you have the feeling like I have a super solution, why is nobody listening to me? Yeah? Just try to see it a little bit from the other side as well.
I think we've exactly identified the root of the problem right here. So maybe a bit of a provocative question to our panel. And now, so we have those innovative ideas coming in from the outside. We have those teachers that need to be doing something else. How do we bridge that gap? Anyone who wants to take it?
Well, at first, I think in our education system, when you look at it from a system point of view, it's not like that there is not enough money. If you compare with other European countries, there is enough money. It's just used in a really inefficient way. Yeah? It's used in a way where teachers basically focus their work on stuff which has no positive effect on the children. Yeah, it's on, I don't know how to give an example to you. For example, you know, when I do the grading for the children in my class, I have all my stuff done in Excel where I track their progress in all kind of different fields. In the end, I calculate the mark for them, and this is also communicated to the children so that they know what's going on. And then I take all these numbers, I write it on a piece of paper so that the next teacher takes this piece of paper, types in these numbers again, so that in the end a paper is printed out where a headmaster has to sign these 300 papers each semester. I mean, you know, this is only a really small example, but we have so much stuff like that where teachers basically use their time with doing stuff which has nothing to do with working with children. And I think to look into those processes and improve them is something that you could really do to generate or to redirect basically the resources in the way where they should be going. I think, yeah, this would be the first step. Actually, I would have also many other ideas, but I think other people have good ideas as well, which is why I'm asking this.
Well, I can talk about our approach to it. So many of you probably know that we had a funding call open with 500,000. Only 10 projects have been selected. There's a lot of obviously frustration out there that we didn't mobilize more money. We were aware of that. But actually we're going to work with those 10 projects. Martin is one of those 10. And the thing, what we are trying to do is that we have now these innovators in a group, and we are also connected to the ministry and the Foundation for Innovation of the ministry. And we actually want to bring them together. So far, the last year, we only spent on explaining to the ministry, please join us, come see those innovators. And we want to use this group of innovators as showcases of people out there. That you stand basically for all the others that are trying to change the system. And yesterday, there was the first step into that direction, that the ministry acknowledged that civil society is delivering solutions that actually offer an addition to the existing system. And I think that's one way that what we try to do, and actually connect and facilitate exchange between innovators and people from the system. And we are far away from really being good at it. I'm really honest here, but I think that's one approach we are trying to do.
Maybe one more point. I think we need lots of courage and lots of optimism. And I think we all are concerned. So some of you might have kids. No? Who has kids in schools? So if you are in a dialogue with a teacher, just give them positive feedback. Yeah. Typically parents go to teachers and tell them what is wrong, whether the grades are poor or whatever, or there's a problem, what the teacher didn't solve. If you just tell the teacher how great the teacher is, the mood, the climate, the atmosphere is much better. And actually in the meantime I know why only one teacher who is not a Teach For Austria participant is here in the room. There's another event here in Vienna. It's happening in a 5-star hotel at the Ring. And there are 50 teachers. So I know if they chose the place or if they chose the topic, because there's one school which is doing a tremendous job. There are 2 teachers who just started and kicked off their school half a year ago in September. It's called Open School, a totally new radical format for 12 to 15-year-olds, and they are sharing their experiences from the first half year with other schools and teachers. And I think this is one of these fantastic, positive, encouraging practices which we have to see, so that we don't always say, it's negative, it's the problem is on. We also are a little bit negative, but if you make an analysis, we have to be like this, but in general, we have to be positive and lots of courage and optimism and positive dialogue, and then we all can change it together.
Woo! Yeah. I have to say, I can't think of a better way to close this panel than with this statement, because we're not only in this room dedicated to actually affecting some change, even though it might be difficult, but we have a bunch of startups right here that are already doing this and trying to find innovative ways. So I'd love for us all to meet them. And with that being said, thanks to everyone on the panel. Thank you for your opinions. Thank you for your thoughts and careful analysis. It was a pleasure having you. And yeah, give it up for the panel one more time.